Welcome to a very special episode of The Diplomats. I'm Gohorns Go from the Nexus server, Diplomacy server, and absent is my partner in crime, Umble the Heap. But we have a very special guest here today, Superstition, aka Don from the Nexus server, Season 4 finalist, to talk about Season 4 finals. Again, this podcast is brought to you by diplomacybriefing.com, but since Umble is not present, I'm not going to give anything other than that. Go to diplomacybriefing.com. Superstition, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good.
Congratulations on making the finals of Season 4.
Yeah, second time. But thank you.
Season 1 and Season 4, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
So I'm sharing the screen here in the latest ratings from May 4th. There hasn't been an update since then. We have you statistically as the second best Nexus diplomacy player of all time.
Yeah. When I win, I win big, I guess.
Would you like to gloat over Umble, who seems to be over 80 points behind you, and yet has a lot of criticism of your play? Take your time.
When you quit playing, you stop being the best.
So now you are also the leader of this Hearts group on the Nexus server.
I am.
How many of the Hearts were in the finals?
This time just losers. So.
Okay. And
myself.
And yourself. And you played totally anonymously. I think I read that you correctly guessed, but apparently it was not discussed who was who in the finals, right? So you didn't know who was who.
Oh, I knew who was who immediately. Well, not immediately. By the end of the spring, I had correctly guessed every player's identity. The hardest ones to pinpoint were losers and Max, because their negotiating tactics, I guess, aren't as known to me. So.
All right. So, by the way, anyone can go on our podcast and hear all about Superstition style of play and what he does, but essentially what he tries to do is, correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm just rolling with it, but you like to find an ally, you like to become friends with that person, you're looking for a relationship that you can later theoretically abuse.
Possibly. I guess it turns out that way. I guess I don't think about it that way at the beginning, because you try to go as far as you can with one person just because you don't know what you're going to encounter. So, I mean, if you both end up with being resisted, then you stay together the entire time. But in a final situation, one of you's going to want to be on top. So, I suppose you're right.
All right. So you drew England this time around. And tell me what what did you draw the first time you were in the tournament in Season 1?
Austria.
All right. Well, if it was me, I would prefer Austria to England, but I've grown to love England Season 2. But you drew England. Tell me your thoughts.
I drew England, and I wasn't too worried about it. I actually like England enough. I thought it suits my play style to stir the pot as much as possible and have a lot of defendable borders. So Turkey is my best country, followed by Austria. But I don't get to play England too much, so it's a little foreign to me. But I don't think I did bad out of the gate.
All right, so I've got the map up. I think you should see Spring 1901.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, so give me your first impressions of, well, particularly France and Germany, and what you were attempting to, accomplish in the first season.
So in the first season, France is Pez. I knew he was Pez immediately because we had just had a big blow up because we're both admins, and he is very hard to negotiate with. And once he has his mindset,
his writing style, or
yeah. out of the gate, I knew that Germany and France are both Italians, and I just had to figure out which one was which, and it didn't take long to figure out which one was which. Um, Pez just likes things his way, and he wanted a Western triple from the very beginning, and that's all he would say. So when he was praised for his diplomacy, it was almost infuriating because that's all he would say is Western triple. So, um, so you kind of had to just.
What was Germany saying at this point?
I think Germany rolled with it. He didn't say a whole lot about it. I think it was just we were just going to do that just because it was just in place. But I felt like from the beginning I was being set up because there's two Italians, and every time I've played with Italians, they just gravitate together. And I don't think it's like a meta game or anything, but it's just I don't know, they communicate similarly. I speak in a lot of idioms, so I clicked with Italy pretty well because he also does. And that was about the only relationship I actually felt close with long term. But as far as Germany and France, they were kind of on the same page with the Western Triple, and I kind of just had to go along with it.
I don't want to give away the podcast with Pez, which I've recorded. He tells me that he did not know that Germany was Italian, and
Right.
they thought you were. And I have no reason to believe him, but I find it hard to believe since, in the sense that they're not native English speakers. It would seem like maybe that could be picked out.
Oh yeah. The first thing I noticed was that Italy, Austria, myself were most likely American, and that the rest were not American. Just because you can look at, putting a U in color, it's just a lot of little things.
Right.
I pegged Vabo because he used "come on" and he says it in chat all the time, so I'm like, that's him. But I got really close with Germany. I thought that we played a qualifier together, and it didn't turn out well because we just kept lying to each other. Um,
Here
I
you are,
played
right next to
I
him.
played the first finals, and it was the same thing, and he just kept stabbing me. I don't know why I expected him to behave differently this time. Uh, so that was probably bad on my part by even trying to play with him over and over. So
Let me ask you this: when I'm England and France and Germany are suggesting Western Triple, I'm all for it unless I think that really that's just some sort of trick for a sea lion or something, because
right,
it seems like that's a positive development for England, a Western Triple.
right, definitely. But because they weren't giving me an extra build, I felt like I was being set up to be backdoored, especially when Pez wants to produce all these fleets to fight Italy. When we fast forward to some of the other maps, I will show you where he actually makes a deal with Italy, and he won't go with me against Germany. So I know he's going to attack me, so I have to build against him.
I'm happy to discuss that. My first question is: did you know now, as of spring 1901, that you were not going to get Belgium, or that you would have to bounce there,
Yes,
or
I knew 100% that I was not getting Belgium. Pez wanted to make sure that Germany felt safe with the extra build because it's harder for Germany to ramp up with a Western Triple. So my counter was for me to talk to Russia and propose a over-the-top alliance, but it would be a farce, and I would be able to get two builds, and then Germany would be in Sweden in order to push STP quickly. But
right?
obviously Germany didn't like that idea, and
Yeah.
so we backed away from that idea, and then I ended up really doing a real over-the-top and thinking that with pressure from me and France and Italy and Austria really wanting that bounce in Sweden, that maybe he would actually do it. So I thought I could sneak in.
So my first question to you is: of spring 1901, why move to Edinburgh and not York with your Army Liverpool?
Because I wanted to make it look like I could go either way. And if people had a change of heart, that I could move things around. So I could convoy in and still stay with the Western Triple, or I could convoy to Denmark too, and it just gave me a lot more flexibility to go either way because I wasn't sold on the ER or the Western Triple at that time.
Did you think about attacking France? Pez told me he was 100% confident that you wouldn't move to the English Channel. Well, not 100%, but pretty confident he could cover it in Brest. Did you think at all about moving south?
I did, because Italy, well, Conk had played Italy in the previous finals, and he didn't want to be stuck in the same routine he was before. And so he proposed that Germany, myself, and him all push France and collapse immediately, which would offer him an extra center of growth because once Italy's at 5, it gets a little bit more sustainable. Germany wouldn't bite. It was not a good sell. And I didn't really push that just because I was afraid that it would get back to France, and I don't want someone in the channel. So I thought my best bet for an extra build would be in Denmark, and I could actually either stick with Russia or I could force Germany into pushing Russia. So.
All right. So here we go. This had to feel disastrous. Did you work something out with Russia for Russia to not go to Sweden so Germany would go to Sweden and you would get into Denmark? Tell me what happened.
So Russia and I were sharing a lot of intelligence to see if this would work. Fact is I had a lot of people pressuring Germany to do the bounce. And so all my intelligence, which was multiple people, would suggest that Germany was actually moving to Sweden. And there was very few indications or a few people that were saying that he was not. I actually convinced Russia that he was getting bounced, and we both firmly believed it was going to happen. And so he moved Baltic, and we attempted the convoy.
The idea being that you would get Russia into Sweden the next season.
Oh, not at all. He promised me the north completely.
Oh, he did.
He promised me Sweden for exchange for Norway. So once Norway is there, SDP would be a little bit more safer. But it would be down the line.
All right. And so when you see this, you gotta just be like, that sucks.
Yeah, I really like convoying to Denmark. It's kind of my thing when I'm England, but this is the first time it's ever failed for me. Usually I'm pretty good at setting it up. But I've always said that Babbo has been the most resistant to me out of any player that I've ever played.
You think he was mistrustful for sure, or do you think he had advanced knowledge that you were doing this with Russia?
No, I don't think he had any advanced knowledge. He's just immune to anything I say or do. I guess he's super suspicious of Superstition because France was a little disappointed. Obviously, Austria seemed disappointed. Russia was very disappointed. So everyone was a little upset, but good play. He read that really well. So.
It was his good play. I mean, one of his good plays of the game. Where do you stand at this point with? Well, clearly you and Germany can't be standing well, but on the other hand, what can he? He's going to get 3 builds, but he's got armies in Belgium and Holland. Where do you stand with France? Where do you stand with Russia? What are your thoughts?
At this point, France and Germany are still good. The builds are there. I blame most of it on misinformation from Italy. I start trashing Italy's game, which kind of hurts me later.
You think Conk or Flint, same guy, was? Why do you blame him? What was he doing that you think? Stirring the pot?
Oh, he has a lot of press. I don't think he did anything. I just blamed it on him. So. And I think that kind of ruined his credibility for the rest of the game, just because we're 2 of the most vocal people. So it kind of took him down with me eventually.
On the other hand, you got to be happy to see that. I mean, Pez moves into the Western Med, doesn't go to the Irish Sea. If that convoy had gone through and he went to the Irish Sea, I mean, obviously you would get 2 builds, but You do not have an enemy in France at this point.
No, I wasn't worried about Pez at all. Pez throughout the entire game told me exactly what he was going to do, or he didn't lie to me about it at least. He's actually a really bad liar because whenever I would ask him, he's like, "I'll think about it," which means no. So uh, it's kind of interesting that he did so well, um, and interesting why Germany couldn't catch that stab either. But I didn't read those press, so I don't know.
Now, how much were you involved in worrying about the other side of the board?
I had some conversations with Turkey. Nothing really with losers at all, just because he was trying to survive most of the time. Uh, it was a big mess, and it was really hard to untangle. I really pushed for the Juggernaut, just because I felt like if anything was going to keep a Western triple together, it would be the threat of a Jug. That, and I felt like Italy had been influencing a little bit too much, and that it might be bad for my game if he got a foothold before I could.
Now, how does Bobo handle this with you? Are you just now dead set on being enemies, or does he try and retack a little bit? Do you apologize and say, tried to do it? I mean, what are you trying to do internally with manage your situation with Germany?
Well, with Germany, we just kept fighting over and over and over.
So the die
And
was cast.
not necessarily, because we kept going back to group chat with Pez, and Pez would be like, Western triple this. And so we'd say what we have to do to make it work, and then we would move forward from there. And so every time you'd think it would be over, we would just do it again. So I wouldn't say that we were enemies at this point. We were yelling at each other, but we were still on the same team as far as Pez was concerned, I guess. I was
Well,
still mad because he was still being very cautious and I'm very aggressive. There's just, yeah, it'll continue.
were you laughing? I don't know if you listened to the podcast, but since I'm an egomaniac, I assume you did. That we thought you were France.
I know. And that bothered me because I was like, Pez is just not negotiating at all. He's just like, I'm just going to do my thing. You guys stay out of my way. And I'm like, and it's not that I don't feel like he was negotiating severely well. I mean, obviously he had Germany on his side, so I guess he was, but I mean, he was constantly lying to Italy. Italy didn't trust him. Italy wanted me to attack him over and over and over again, which I finally did. My mistake. But and I wanted to, but I mean, without any help, there's no real reason for me to push France at that time. So uh, he just kind of got to do his own thing, and it was just.
Let's go to winter 1901. You build Fleet London.
Mm-hmm.
Was that I'll tell you what Pez says after you tell me. Was that a negotiated build, or was that is that what Pez wanted you to do? Explain.
No, Pez wanted me to build only armies, which I read as soon as he wanted me to do Western Triple all the time. That I was like, he's gonna backdoor me eventually, especially if he's stifling my build. So I'm still watching the FG like it's just an Italian block. Um, it's not sitting well, but he's still pounding the Western Triple drums. So for me, it makes more sense for me to control my own water. But also, I feel like Germany's going to build a fleet too, and Pez doesn't want either of us to build fleets because it's just animosity towards each other. So I'm not really building one versus Pez. I'm more building one versus Germany, just because I know I need to hold north.
So this is what Pez then tells me. He moves to the channel because he's mad that you built Fleet London. Was that discussed ahead of time, or did you know he was moving there?
No, he did not tell me
Spring
that.
02?
I feel like it was Italy trying to cause animosity by telling him that I might move to England. And this was my biggest point of contention was that I didn't really break anything with France, and France moves into the English Channel, which was DMZ, and then Germany moves to Burgundy, and Germany gets the short end of the stick the entire time. And then I get faulted for my transgressions about building in Liverpool. But his move to the English Channel is completely innocent because it's Pez, you know? He doesn't do anything wrong.
He said, I can tell you better, but he says if you had not built Fleet London, he wouldn't have moved there. He
Oh,
says he was mad at you, and that what you. He says you started it first. Your point is, I gotta control the water. I'm England, and also I can't leave myself totally vulnerable to France.
well, I'm not even worried about vulnerability to France. The negotiation was that Germany would build all armies, that he doesn't need a fleet. And I knew he was going to build a fleet, so I needed a fleet to protect me. It had nothing to do with France. It was me versus Germany to protect our interests.
So, sort of hilariously, you do bounce Skagerrak, but you could have taken Denmark.
Yeah.
Such ways of life in the game of diplomacy. But you get Sweden. It looks like you and Russia are going great. And then a little stroke of luck here with Germany moving into Burgundy. So now Germany's got, France angry, fighting Russia and you. That's normally not a bad position for you to be in.
No, this is a weird season for me because me and Russia were being very ambiguous about what we were going to do. I wanted support into Sweden. He said that he needed it to ensure a move to Prussia wasn't going to happen. Um, I berated him in the fall because I was like, you should have moved to Kiel, which Umble also said. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Um, there was just so many better moves to be made here. Uh, and then, so me and France are fighting because I'm like, why did you move to ENG? And then we're in the Western Triple chat and, we're attacking Germany because they're like, hey, why are you in Burgundy? And Germany's texting me saying, hey, I thought you wanted to work together. This is our opportunity. And I'm like, well, why didn't you talk to me about it? But I guess he couldn't talk to me about it. Well, I don't even know why, because he couldn't get stopped. So he was trying to make a move of good faith, which was really odd because he just built a fleet against me. So I wasn't too sure. And maybe he built a fleet against Russia. But the fact that the whole Russia move was just kind of suspect to me still. I really felt like Germany and Russia still had stuff going on that maybe they had made up just because, Germany did leave Sweden wide open for him. So um, there's just not a lot of animosity right there between Russia and Germany for me to believe that they're not together. Russia has deals with everybody. He's friends with pretty much the entire board, and he
What's
did
his playing style?
um, it's kind of dry. Uh, he was actually my closest ally in the game, and I wish I had never stabbed him because it's not my thing. I was really trying to play with Germany, and it really backfired. But his play style, he does big walls of text, and it's all bullet pointed. At first, I thought he was Pez because Pez likes to do bullet points too, and it's kind of like a contract between a lawyer that reads like stereo instructions. And if anyone knows me, I'm very passionate player, so like I like short, you know, emotional texts about, how we feel and what we're gonna do. And I don't think we really clicked until he said he hated Germany and wanted Germany to die. So it it was a little off putting at first for me. Um, but it technically started to work.
Well, how did you get along with Flint then? Because Flint likes long press with people.
I think he read the situation pretty well. And his long presses were, I guess, they had a lot of feeling in them. So me and Italy got along really well. We were just really far from each other, so it just never worked out.
All right. Uh, so here we go. A pretty good season for you. You get French support into Belgium.
Yep. So I'm talking to France. I'm like, give me Belgium. I can help you get Paris back if, something should happen. And he agrees. It's the best move for both of us. Um, and yeah, I was very surprised he actually gave it to me. In the meantime, Russia is like, we can try for Denmark. You have two on it, which I'm glad I didn't because he protected it double. Um, So I think that was the best move. I told
Well,
him
you
this.
could have
I,
bounced. I was a little surprised Burgundy didn't move back to Belgium with support from Holland. What's your explanation there?
well, we were talking in Western Triple Chat, and I think France and myself both pretty much talked him out of it, saying, you're going to make an FE, which I tried to make an FE against Germany just because I'm like, he's working with everybody, and he's not giving anyone the truth, and he's always talking vaguely, and it's frustrating. But
You keep
so
calling it the Western Triple Chat, but like you're not into a Western Triple. But it seemed like Pez was just going with this Western Triple no matter what.
no matter
He
what, so
pressed.
So I actually have this. So I'm like, okay, we're working together. I'm in Belgium. We can push Germany. He's like, no, Western Triple. Even after Germany was in Burgundy. I'm like, I was like, oh, he's so frustrating to deal with. So yeah. So now I got an
but
army just sitting in Belgium.
he's keeping his word. I mean, he's going all in against Italy.
Italy.
I mean,
Yep.
one may
Oh,
disagree. One may disagree with his tactics this move, but
yep.
he's doing what he's saying.
He's doing what he's saying. No, I have no problems with Pez as far as him lying to me. He's always done what he said. I wish he would have went with me against Germany, but I always felt like I was the odd man out in this situation, so I was just trying to monopolize the best I could.
All right, so you get two builds coming,
Hmm.
and here is a controversial build in. I understand the Army Edinburgh, the Fleet Liverpool. What are you thinking?
This is what Russia wanted me to build, and I think Italy wanted me to build two fleets. Uh, France wanted me to build two armies, but he said he was okay with an army and a fleet. Before I had changed my orders, I had already said it this way, even though he would probably preferred it be Army Liverpool and Fleet in Edinburgh, but I wanted to convey to Norway and finish with the Western Triple. Um, Needless to say, he wanted me to go to Clay, and I was like, that's fine, but I want you out of the channel. And then we started arguing. He's like, but you built Fleet Liverpool. And I was like, and Germany was in Burgundy, and you're in the English Channel. So everyone's fucked up a little bit. So get out of the English Channel. And he wouldn't. He refused. And I guess that was the beginning of the end between me and France. Uh, so I was
Yeah,
actually grateful that I built in Liverpool because I felt like he was just going to come for me anyways, since he was that adamant of not letting me move on. So
now
that's,
he tells me that you broke your word here that you were going to build Fleet Edinburgh, Army Liverpool, and uh, you're kind of saying he just gave you a preference. Uh,
he gave me a preference at first. He just said one of each, and then later on he specified, but I never changed my orders after that specification. So I had never agreed to it, and nor did I have time to change it. But I probably wouldn't have
so
anyways, because he's right there. All he has to do to move to the Mid-Atlantic and back to the Irish Sea. So yeah, you can say it's revealing my hand, but at the same time, if I hadn't built Liverpool, Russia probably wouldn't have helped me into Denmark, which I didn't take stupidly. So
it's chicken and egg time. Uh, you're telling me if you think you had not built Liverpool, he would have pressed an advantage on you.
correct.
But I'm wondering if you think building Fleet Liverpool caused him to do that, or you're
No,
you're certain it was.
I think for Liverpool was the right call. No matter what, even if we disagreed on it, just because he's in the channel, he's not backing down. He thinks he's in the right, um, and there's just no negotiation with him. So, in my opinion, he's just waiting for me to get overextended and let my guard down, which I do later. But yeah,
Now you don't really get along with Germany. You've made that clear. But is
correct.
there any chance at this point to work with Germany?
Yes. Me and Germany have like two or three threads about starting over. And And so it's just like, hey, this is the board state. If I die, you're next. So uh, it just kind of went from there. And Italy did his best to try to get Germany to side with me. I guess that's where a lot of my failed moves happen, is influence from Italy trying to negotiate for me or broker peace, and it just didn't work.
So you wanted me to share something, some press with Russia that you had before the spring 1903 move. So I'm going to put it up on the board. Russia to you. What does the Western Triple bring to you? Why are they so together? Did you hear about some heart brotherhood crap they are in together? Is this for real? Why do you influence final? I bet France threatened to leave their clan if Burgundy took Paris. This is not the way to play. Let's make sure one of us here wins this, or one of you, at least. One of us or one of you. At least. So tell me what's happening with you and the Kaiser.
So I think this is Italy talking about hearts, and I think that's where you heard it from. And so I guess it's just to scare Russia into trusting him. But for some reason, it gets back to me because I'm like, France and Germany are unbreakable. There's nothing I can do. I was like, Germany was in Burgundy, and I still couldn't get France to move against them. And yeah, I was like, I'm building against France, still can't get Germany to move back against him. That's later on, but there's nothing I can say will break up France and Germany. Just nothing. Um, and I don't know how much of Burgundy was an attack or not, but it was just really interesting that he didn't at least take Paris. So for me,
he didn't go for Paris. He
that
didn't
was
defend
more of a
Belgium,
sign that
and he goes back to Munich.
it made it seem like it was a farce to me to throw off anyone helping me to stop the FG. But yeah, it was just funny. I didn't know what to say because I was like, "Oh, I'm the heart," and I was like, and now Russia's like worried about it. So I can kind of paint them as hearts, and I was like, "Fine, they're the enemy," because they're like, to me they're together anyway, so I can't do anything about it.
Yeah, and I guess you did. All right. And did you think that they knew that they were each Italian?
I have no idea. I have a hard time believing that they don't. I know when uh, Babbo and Super Wordy were in season one, um, and I was talking to him, and I thought Super Wordy was like Umble at first because Umble was using Super Wordy's text to pretend like he was him, which was funny. He was throwing me off by using other people's press styles, but he was like, "I know England's not because I'm speaking Italian to him." So it could be that they didn't know. I For me, I think they just said that so it doesn't look like they're metagaming, which I don't think they were in any way, shape, or form. It's just natural to gravitate to people that talk like you and think like you. For some reason, I work well with Americans. Like I said, I use a lot of idioms, a lot of euphemisms, and it's just a natural conversation. When I speak to a European, it's very dry and it's harder to make a connection. And Italians are the worst for me for some reason. Love them to death, but I don't play with them well at all.
France told me that Germany, Babbo, changed his time zone. Uh, I really don't know how one does this, such that, or he was sending press during like American times, and that's why he didn't think Babbo was Italian, and he said he thought you were Russia, but then he started to think maybe Babbo was Russian. He was sending jokes in Italian to Russia, and he goes, Russia wouldn't respond, so I gave up. I couldn't figure out who the other Italian was.
Well, I don't expect everyone to know how to find other players as well as I do. I mean, I would have never found Max if it wasn't for a process of elimination. But yeah, by the end of spring 1901, I had 5 of the players down, and the only ones I didn't know were Austria and Russia. It was a 50-50 shot.
All right, I have to think Italy was the easiest to figure out. I mean, I
Oh,
could spot pretty easily.
yeah, Italy was the easiest, just because of the massive press style. I had allied with Turkey in a qualifying game, so I knew Turkey pretty well. Um, Kind of a paranoid player, but very nice. So that was good. But yeah, I knew France and Germany were both Italian immediately. I just had to figure out which one was which.
So, not to be critical of your spring 1903 moves, you've heard Humble's criticism, I assume,
Yes.
but uh, and I think you've even admitted it here. Russia clearly agrees to convoy you into Denmark. Instead, you go anti-Russia and well, I don't know if it's anti-France or not, but it certainly looks that way. Tell me what's going on in your head.
All right, so this move is a little weird. I obviously built Fleet Liverpool and Army Edinburgh, and Russia gave me the green light on that. Russia was with me 100% of the way. I think that showed a commitment towards France, even though for me it really wasn't. Uh, it was it was more flexible than France took it. France took it really bad. But Russia was inviting me in, and I should have taken that. So with France, I am arguing with him because he's mad with my builds, and then I'm trying to get him to commit to demilitarizing, and I want him to bounce me in Burgundy. And I'm like, just bounce me in Burgundy, so I know you're not trying to come after me, because right now nothing you're saying is very pro me. So
Well, we're all for press that is pro me.
so I'm just like, he wants to still work with me, but then he's not working with me. So what France wants me to do is he wants me to convoy out of Belgium into Norway. And I'm like, well, why would I build EDI then? The whole point of building EDI is to go into Norway. I was like, I think I should just bounce with you and hold my build here, and then I can convoy another one in next season, to see if you guys are against me or not. In the meantime, I'm trying to convince Germany to either support me to Burgundy so we can attack France, or to just go and move into Silesia to counter Russia. But instead, he goes against me instead of going against either other side. This is where Italy started to broker and try to get the EG going, and I started because my crossroads with France is not going well. Obviously, he's not even telling me a lie to get me to go to Quay or NEO. So he's just going to come after my units. He's gonna convoy up. So I'm like, I got to go to the Irish Sea. I have to. Um, Otherwise, he can come after me. So I'm pretty dead set about going against France because I have to. He's coming after me. There's nothing I can do. So
But the
Germany.
move against Russia, you get
So
your army out of the continent. You're clearly making an enemy out of someone who's not an enemy.
so
Help
yeah.
me out.
So yeah, this is a problem. So I'm trying to convince Germany to help me versus France. I'm trying to get Germany to say if we go all in on either side, we're stuck together. So he made it. He said I went into Burgundy trying to get your favor, and I was like, well, I'll do a move to try to get your favor. When obviously he didn't care. So he took that, so he didn't lose the center, I guess. But he never actually allied me, even though that's what my goal was, is for me to be with Germany again. So and it was part of Italy's plan. And we tried to work it out, but Germany's like, I've got to hold everything I got. I don't know who's against me. I'm surrounded. So I'm like, I'll overextend, and he'll see that I don't have a choice but to trust him. That didn't work out very well. The only reason I was really going against Russia at this time is that he seemed to have a Wintergreen and a Juggernaut and an over the top, and I wasn't too sure. I still wasn't 100% sure what his relationship was with Germany, but I knew that he wanted Norway as soon as I took Denmark. And so if it was in Denmark, I knew I'd have to either force him out of Norway later, which probably was the better option, definitely was the better option. But Germany wanted me to push,
Well,
France
how
wanted
is
me to
he
push.
gonna get to? How is he gonna get to Norway?
Well, I think he was set up for two builds, and he would have built an STP. So I felt like I had to stop any build from STP so I could control the north.
Okay.
So I knew he was going to get two. He had Italy and Turkey thinking he was on. They're both on his side. So I was like, he's getting 2 builds. I've got to stop him from getting a build. I felt like if I moved on Russia, that France and Germany might back off and see that I was only moving defensively and trying to stay with the Western Triple.
Meanwhile, that's, France has moved back to Spain, and
Yeah.
your German support into Burgundy. It doesn't look like you have any friends at this point.
No, I have none. None at all.
And that is not your game.
No. After losing Russia, this was like the end, because I should have stayed with Russia the entire time, because we actually had a decent rapport. At the same time, I had Italy and Turkey in an alliance together, or so I thought, and they were supposed to stay together. So this is spring. I had full understanding that the Ionian would either move to the Tyrolean Sea or Tunis, and that the Aegean was going to move to the Ionian, and that would allow pressure on Tunis, because
Meanwhile, Turkey stabs Italy and flexes his muscles.
And Bulgaria was supposed to go to Romania, and Ankara was supposed to go to the Black Sea. So I knew that if the IT stuck together, I would have both pressure on Russia, and France would not have a build from Tunis. So I would still be in a good position. So unfortunately, nothing Italy did matched what I thought was going to happen, and now I had all the powers that I was fighting at full force, when they should have had a second front.
Either.
No, they should have had a second front with Turkey pushing both directions.
All right, so this has got to be feeling bad.
Yeah, I was pretty much left out to dry, and yeah, I definitely sold out Italy a lot more. And I think that's the reason he never could get anyone to trust him again.
Well, he lost Serbia. He himself got stabbed. Not that I'm defending, but
right.
Isn't Italy's whole job here? He's not trying to help you. He wants France to go back to you. If you were Italy, you want the same thing.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, I was expecting him to go to Piedmont as well. Instead, he did his own thing. But yep, I was like, you can't even offer me a diversion at all. I was like, he would have to pull back to Marseille. I was like, I can hold him longer if you do something. So, but no, nothing. So after I got burned, I got pretty bitter.
Bitter in the press, or bitter like by yourself drinking alone?
Oh, I get bitter in the press. Yeah, I loved Italy. I still liked him throughout the game, but yeah, I kind of tanked him every chance I could, because he just left me out to dry. He said there's nothing he could do because Turkey is stabbing him, and this and that, but you just
was there a lot of players?
If I'm the only ally you got on the map, it's probably better than nothing.
Well, that's true, and ultimately didn't end up good for Italy either. But I'm curious, in this game, was there a lot of press between all the players in a group, or was it really your Western was Western Triple Chat still happening, by the way, at this point, or was that gone by this time?
I was still talking to it just because I had to adjust both of them, but it was dwindling at this point.
Okay, here you make your move in fall 1903 into the Mid-Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
I think it helped by Holland. Wait, well, you cut support of Holland. Trying to figure out if Holland messed up there, if that's the time he messed up or it was later. And then obviously you lose, but you take St. Petersburg.
Had they supported Holland into Belgium, they would have taken it from me, but they tried to support it the other way, so I cut support there. I had to move MAO because I assumed West would move back, just like Umble's like, why wouldn't you move back? So I was like, I was still trying to meet Turkey and Italy partway so we could continue pressure. But yeah, instead of support, I don't know. It just still didn't turn out extremely well. I got a good position, but I still didn't have a friend on the map. I was trying to make it up with Russia, and he's like, I'm going to convoy to Sweden. We'll get back out. I was like, I don't feel comfortable. I was like, you'll most likely get a build, and I think you'll build an SDP. So he's like, put a fleet in there instead of an army. If you put an army in there, I know you're just going to keep pushing me. But if you put a fleet in there, we can switch later. And so that's why I did that. We
So
just
this
pretty
is
much,
arranged. So when you
yes,
heard all that criticism from Humble about why would you put a fleet in there, this is all the wrong way. This is you trying to get back with
with
Russia, but
Russia,
also have trust.
right? Because it's like if he doesn't trust me, then he's just going to build an STP. So I was like, this was the best way to make us both feel good, is to swap centers and him not have a buildable center in the north, because I still wanted to control the north the best I could. And right now I had a pretty good line, but it did end up isolating that fleet. Without Russia, it was not possible for me to maintain anything.
Correct. So now we can move to, let's see here. Winter of 03, you don't get a build, but you're still at 6.
Still
Is
at
it
6.
still forlorn? I mean, you heard on the podcast, I think Humble was begging Germany to get with you, or, to work with you. Did you try and use that at all, or were the podcasts coming out too late for that?
I tried really hard to still get with Germany. The entire time, I was just like, can still do it. He has nothing in the middle. Germany's like, I don't want to work with you unless I have Belgium back. And I'm like, what? I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense because I can't do anything with Belgium. But I wanted to convoy to Gascony. I was pretty much 50-50 on it, but I had a feeling that that he was going to make some defensive maneuvers. I was wrong. They went for the disband.
You heard Humble begging for that.
I really wanted to do it, but I felt like if they had pushed the English Channel, I would be in a worse position defensively. So I did not do it. Because I figured they had to dislodge the English Channel, but they didn't go for it. I should have convoyed to Gascony.
It's amazing to hear how much France and Pez just benefited from having that solid friend in Germany.
Yeah. There was just not much I could do to save that. And they wanted me to convoy to Norway, but yeah, I was like, So I got FG asking me to convoy to Norway and to continue to the Western Triple. And I wanted to convoy to Gascony, but I was afraid of losing the English Channel. And me and Russia were planning a swap of centers again. Russia wanted me to go to Finland, but I said I broke my word and went to the Gulf of Bothnia instead, because I felt like if he moved there, I would lose everything immediately.
Gotcha.
So here, Russia and I agree. We'll move out. We'll swap back. He'll move to SDP and take Norway, and he'll help me back in to Denmark like we had originally planned with my army in Sweden, and I would take Sweden behind him. So we'd have the same split that we had before. That was what we were agreeing to, but yeah. So he convoyed out of the north, went to SDP, so everything looked good. Germany obviously still moving against me, but protecting his own interest.
But hang on. So you think you've stabilized the north except for the Finland issue?
Correct. I feel like I had to move the Gulf just because if he was lying to me, it would have been really bad.
All right. And so how did Russia take it when he saw you move there?
He didn't mention it at all. So I did explain it, and I did apologize for it. And it still seemed like we were going to move forward, but yeah. And he ended up taking German support instead.
Okay, so here, the attempted move to Picardy from Belgium, you're losing Belgium. You attempt to take it and cut support in Brest. It fails, and you have to disband Belgium.
Correct.
Or it just gets destroyed. It gets blown up. The Picardy was because you just didn't see another option for Belgium. You didn't want a convoy for the reasons you thought that, I guess you assumed there would be a move from Brest to Gascony. You didn't want to bounce. That's why you didn't do that. There were really no other options for that Belgian army other than
To
Picardy or
cut support.
Gascony or back on the continent.
Right. I just want to make sure I didn't lose the English Channel at this point. So I thought about other places I could convoy, but I didn't really want to piss Russia off by going north. And I didn't. Yeah, I don't think it would have. Well, it would have succeeded had I convoyed to Gascony this time, but I felt like there might have been a bounce that way. I thought Burgundy might go to Gascony, but that would have been a bad retreat. So I don't know. I just read it wrong. I just thought that I could either sneak into Brest or I could disband Picardy if I chose right, because I thought there'd be a supported attack against the English Channel.
You didn't want to move, I assume, English Channel to Brest, supported by MAO, because you'd be worried that Picardy would take the channel and you'd
Correct.
be naked.
Correct. And I would definitely not most likely have a build, but we'll see. I don't know. Yeah.
On the other hand, if you moved it, on the other hand, if you moved it with support from English Channel, it would have been cut. So, you know, was there thought to just blowing MAO off at that point? I know you moved to Spain and you take it, but did you think about doing it in the spring?
No, because I felt like if he actually covered Gascony, he would just push me out. So I really felt like I needed to protect the channel during the spring and just get my 50-50 shot in the fall.
All right. And you won the 50-50 ball.
Right. An English fleet in Portugal was really hard to dislodge, so I had a pretty good shot of taking Spain, and I figured I wouldn't keep Spain for very long, but it was something to keep me afloat.
Okay. Right. I was a little surprised for the same reason, right? You know, that I thought he might think you're going to Spain and bounce you, but that would have been dangerous. I mean, it would have been too dangerous, I think, for him. So, because I don't know how you get dislodged at that point. So, probably the right move for France and the right move for you. Let's talk about the North, though.
Yep. Russia stabs me good. Yep, Russia stabs me good. Real good. So I was like, well played.
With help from Germany.
With help from Germany. I was like, you realize if I lose
and St. Petersburg, he takes all of Scandinavia.
I was like, you realize if I lose fleet presence that you don't have fleets, nor can you build fleets, so you will not be able to be a player in the North at all. So, but oh well.
Why the retreat to Finland as opposed to just surrendering it and building on the continent?
Or building on my island?
Yeah. Not on the continent. Yeah, I'm correct, obviously.
I felt like it gave me a lot more leverage over 3 centers, and maybe I wouldn't lose something. Maybe I could offer Germany something. I have to break up somebody. I can't have, a late game C line against me, so someone's got to break for me to survive.
All right. Is this not your biggest? You have to disband. You picked Spain, which makes sense because it's gone anyways.
It's gone anyways. And as far as, France has never lied to me. We've pretty much done pretty well. Obviously, Germany and Russia are working together pretty closely. And I have just more invested in the North. So if I disbanded...
if you had disbanded Finland before, you would have kept Spain. I understand now.
Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't need Spain. It was like the only thing Spain could have done is pretty much ran after Tunis and helped Turkey, which wasn't probably a great idea at this point.
All right, so I guess you're left with the option of France. How can I be your slave? What can I do to help you?
Correct. So that was my peace offering to France. I was like, you got to build. He still wants to push Italy. So this is okay. It's like Germany builds a fleet. That's expected. It's very pro-Russian. But, yeah. That's how it goes.
Right. Here we go. I guess as a sign of good faith to France, you are getting out of that channel. You are and he's telling you, I'm sure with those moves, you can see the opening, but on the other hand, he's saying, see, I'm going to Italy. I'm going to Italy. I'm getting
Right.
out of your hair.
Pretty much, we agree that, us fighting each other is probably not going to be great. I fought him just because mainly it was if he got any more builds, it would be nearly impossible to break France. I think Umble liked me attacking France, just not attacking Russia. But at this point, I had to trust France because both Germany and Russia weren't giving me anything. At least France was at least telling me what I wanted to hear. I knew that he could turn around, but like I said, need a friend, took what I can get. I had more clout in the north than I did in the, the far west. So I went that way. I got lucky and I jumped in all those centers.
Yeah, so, right. I mean, so you got Norway back.
hmm And Sweden.
And Sweden back.
I did.
All right, so really there's only one thing at this point where you're vulnerable. And unfortunately, it happened.
hmm
Fall 1905.
So at this point, Italy, Turkey, Russia, and I are in a group chat talking about how dangerous the FG is. I was like, they're gonna keep coming after us. I was like, as soon as I'm gone, they're gonna go after Russia. It's just the way it's gonna happen. And so both Turkey and I are convincing each other that Russia is the only way. Russia's totally on board, and he totally stabs both of us at the same time. So his double stab came off a little bit better than my double stab. So kudos to him. But
Well, he
yeah,
got a little lucky by that Smyrna hold, which I,
both Turkey and I thought
Arpa.
we were on the same page that the FG had to be stopped. Um, that and I offered him Norway back to take me into Denmark. It would have been pretty good, I think, but in the end, I told him, I was like, if you're gonna stab me, make it count because this is all you're gonna get for the rest of the game.
Well, he did.
He did. He made it count.
He did, and then
But
of course
like I
France
said,
moves on you.
I could have held and got got a build because they would only take Sweden. I think I would have held Norway. I was like, I knew I could have stayed at 4, but in the end, I would rather have had an ally than. I was like, if I don't have an ally, I'm gonna die anyway, so I might as well take a gamble. Unfortunately, did
All
not.
right. Well, 2 armies get destroyed, but I think this is not that the writing wasn't already on the wall,
hmm
but the failure to make a build on the island, I'm assuming that had to have been a mistake.
So Germany and Russia are both asking me to build in Liverpool. France was asking me to build in EDI, a fleet. So he's like, if you could build a fleet and push Norway, and then I'll leave you alone. I just want Liverpool. So I knew France was lying to me. I was gonna build Army Liverpool. Uh, During this time, there was a backstabber glitch that gave no content for a couple of my chats, which was very frustrating to lose all your chats and then have a lot of them not go through. I also discovered that some of them were just me hitting the enter button and it would say no content, but it was not a glitch. Um, by this time, I had learned that I could do it and fake it. So I was actually sending people no content messages and then complaining about them so I wouldn't have to negotiate. It was actually kind of working until Italy blew up in the Discord and made the moderator pause the game so we could fix it. At this point, it kind of threw off all the times because we were all resolving at resolution. And instead of it being 9 a.m., 9 p.m., it was noon and 12. And I had just come off a furlough, so now I'm working, and it's a midnight resolution, and I missed my build. So.
Well, I don't think it would have ultimately mattered, but it would have mattered this season.
Yes, it would have mattered.
because what Humble was begging France and Germany to do happened. You take the IRC, Belgium convoys to Wales. You're done, dude.
Yep. So at this point, Germany starts negotiating with me, and after just hearing lie after lie, I'm just like, he's like, I know it will probably won't do any good to talk to you. I was like, you're right, let's stop talking. So
We're just getting divorced.
yeah, like it had been to the point where I'm just like, yeah, I'd rather not talk to you because it's just gonna make me mad. Talking to Russia, not much to say to Russia. I'm just gonna move all in versus Germany. I tell France, I was like, you're gonna be. He's like, France tells me I'm going to convoy to Wales, and so I'm like, okay, I'll jump into Belgium. Let me have Belgium. I'll let you have all my centers because you've never lied to me. You can have them all. I was
Hold
like,
on. You knew that Belgium was going to Wales
I
before?
did. I knew, but there's nothing I could do. I can't bounce
Why
Wales.
didn't you why can't you just move to Belgium?
I could have, and I told them I was going to, and France told Germany that's why Denmark was going to jump into the North Sea. So
Uh,
I did it as misinformation, and it worked out to my benefit a little bit, but yeah. So in the fall, I actually do move that way. I tell people I'm going to move into Belgium, and I think I sneak into Holland, or I try to sneak into Holland.
yeah, they just arranged a bounce in Belgium.
So instead of France taking me up, I'm like, give me Belgium, support me into Belgium, and you can bounce him in London. I just really offered France everything I could. He would not take it. He could have had a pretty much easier win than he had he not put Germany in that place of power. But that's
All right,
my
and
opinion.
Germany ends up getting all the centers eventually of you.
He does.
I'm gonna skip to fall 1910 here, brother, and it ends up being a 9-9-9 tie with France as the winner. You played as much against France and interacted with Pez. Tell me your thoughts on our winner.
Well, I guess it worked out pretty well for him. If someone just yells Western Triple at you the entire game, I guess that's your winning strategy. It's I can't say there's anything else other than that. There's not
Okay.
much you can do. You either take it or you don't, and you can't tell him to do anything. Otherwise, he's just gonna assume you're against him. So it's rough.
If hindsight's always 2020.
I don't think I would have fared any better unless I stuck with Russia. And even then, I feel like Russia and France would have scooped me up because Russia was pretty loyal to me, but I just felt like he would have stabbed me with France later in the game. So
How did you view the? You've told us about France and Germany and Italy. How did you rate Russia as a player?
I think he did really well, really well. I think he made really stable alliances. Even though I tried to explain why I went to STP, he kept on saying he didn't understand why I broke the alliance and he was so in with the ER alliance. But for me, I could not see that because he was barely pushing Germany. I feel like he was doing the bare minimum there. Um, he was still with Turkey, he was still with Italy. And then when he ended up stabbing me the first time, he said that, well, that was a deal that Austria would help me versus Turkey, and only Austria would help me is if Germany was with me too. So it was kind of the Austria, Germany, Russia alliance for a second there. And so, yeah, it was just.
And Turkey, Captain Meme. How do you
um,
rate him?
I actually had very little interaction with both Austria and Turkey. I felt like we could have worked together a lot more had Turkey actually pushed with Italy like they said they were going to. It would have been a very interesting split. But but in the end, since Turkey failed to make any moves versus France or Russia significantly while it's still alive, there was nothing for me to really help him with. So, and Austria was almost dead the entire time. So there wasn't much we could work together on either.
Well, look, since Austria is your fellow heart, work on Austria to come on this podcast. The finalist has agreed. Although our friend Austria, I've labeled him as a stubborn person. He's decided to take a pass, but maybe you can work your superstition magic and get him to come on board.
Well, yeah, probably not. Losers, I always call the heartbreaker because he really doesn't follow any heart rules. So every time I played against him, it's like everything's good on paper, and then it just never resolves. And I'm like, he's just playing like it's a gunboat, and then he's totally against me, and he's like, sorry. And for the most game, he thought I was Flint because I guess, or Conk, Italy. I guess because high press. That's kind of how I like to play, is talking a lot. So he thought he's so glad that he found out that I was England because he's like, Italy's an asshole. So
Did I hear correctly that in the middle of all this you got furloughed? So this is just a bummer of a month for you.
No, I was furloughed beforehand, so I had all this time. But I came off of furlough. So I didn't have as much time. But it worked out. A lot of people like to berate that I, played recklessly, but I'm just like, if I don't have an ally, I'm not going to win anyway. So I might as well go out and trying than sit there defensively and just be like, yeah, I made it to the end with 4. So.
All right, a couple other questions here for you. Will you be playing Season 5?
Oh, if Pez has his way, I'll do it. Just because he wants everyone to play. It's really hard to play and manage a tournament at the same time. So we're hoping.
You've got to do what Pez says, right? That's what I
learned. If anyone likes to resist him, it's me. I don't like to do what I'm told, apparently. So we're a good team in a certain way, head and heart.
So you helped manage this tournament and then played in the finals. You've had quite a busy 2020 diplomacy-wise.
Quite busy. I got wrangled in. I made a 15-point agreement on what it would take to help me moderate this tournament, and then out of the blue, Ajax had to do family matters, and Kit disappeared, and so me and Pez, who just been brought on a month ago, we ended up running this tournament, and we had pretty much no guidance and no real history on how to do it, so we just kind of did our best. And there was a lot of.
I think it went well. I mean, to me it was a good tournament. I played in it, not well, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than playing your 1862 variant, which I made the worst player of all time at that variant. But I appreciate the invite to that. Well, that's true. Why don't you tell everyone about your variant just so you can publicize it a bit?
I do have an 1862 Discord. It's based on the entire world. I started as a Civil War map, but it actually can go through it goes through South America. Everything's modular, so every map is balanced for each continent, but you can actually play them together, and it's not too bulky, so everything's pretty streamlined. I think it's pretty good. Obviously,
I thought it was genius. Unfortunately, I was playing 3 tournament games at the same time, so I couldn't dedicate the time I needed to, but I enjoyed it, and I would encourage people to join your 1862 Discord. One final question here. Does Umble the Heap have a future in diplomacy analysis, or should he hang up his spurs?
I think it depends on the game. This game, he had a lot of things right. Obviously, he didn't have who I was as a player, even though it looked like there was a strong alliance, which there was. But I think last season he wasn't very adept on heart play, and with 4 hearts on the map, about how negotiations work with my playstyle. I think he was really upset that things didn't make sense. I play a really emotional game, and when you have more emotional players, the game gets a little bit more chaotic and more fun. So, like I said, I only had Italy really to deal with. The rest of the players are very analytical. So I guess that's why me and Italy were seen as unstable and worthy of taking out. And once they knew who we were, everyone has a fear. You know what I mean? Conk is number one in the seed, and it's the second time in. I have a certain kind of fear behind me just because I'm a leader, both of the server and of my own hearts. So I don't know if that had anything to play with it. Obviously not for Russia, but I made no
Well,
attempt to hide who I was.
he didn't even know who these hearts were. We showed the message earlier.
Well, he's kind of the new one to the scene, so the rest of us kind of know a little bit more.
Well, look, I thought it was a tremendous finals to watch. I know it wasn't a fun one to play for you,
Oh, it was
but
great fun. I loved it.
but except for the final result. But thank you for making it entertaining. I guess one last question here, since I know you'll give an honest answer. We put these podcasts up after the moves, go down, so as to try not to influence anything. Is it a good idea to have these podcasts? I mean, I think we're going to keep doing it whether you like it or not, or the finals like it or not. But did it impact the game? Were people referencing the podcast at all?
Germany was referencing the podcast. He's like, "Did you hear it? I think they're right. We should work together." I don't even think he needed to work it that way, just because I really wanted to work with him from the beginning, and I really wanted some kind of. I like EGs, just me personally, and it's me trying to force a player who does not like to play with me, trying to get him to do, to play with me. So he was using it. It was the only player that I did know that was referencing it. I know that Humble had pointed out where France and Russia really had no enemies, and that if Germany fell too fast, that it would be bad for me, or vice versa. Germany actually held their own pretty well, but yeah, I told Russia as soon as I'm dead, he's coming after you, and he did. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Superstition. Thank you for doing all that you do with Diplomacy Nexus. And thanks to diplomacybriefing.com, who gets a free plug for sponsoring our podcast. Go sign up for diplomacybriefing.com. Otherwise, I don't know what Humble would do. Thanks, John. Superstition, have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.